Hi everyone, and welcome back to my garage. Currently, the lights are all off in the house, so I came down here to see if there is anything wrong with the circuit breaker. If I could just remember which of these circuits actually deals with the lights. Man, this place gives me the creeps. You know, while I'm down here, let's talk about found footage films. Kicked off by the 1980 movie Cannibal Holocaust, the idea behind found footage films was that the movie we just witnessed was actual recorded footage from a real person's camera. One of the best known examples of a found footage film was the Blair Witch Project, which told the story of a group of student filmmakers that went missing, with their recovered footage providing the only answers to their fate. The goal of the genre is to add another level of horror to the story, blur the lines between fiction and reality, and make the audience feel more connected to the experience. Kinda like how back in 1938, the War of the Worlds was broadcasted over the radio waves as a series of news bulletins. That leads us to tonight's movie, As Above, So Below. But before I get started, I first need to get the lights back. Welcome to Short and to the Point, where I review movies in 5 minutes or less, or your money back.
Is it on? Yeah. Run. Okay, run. Actually, run. What? Hey, let's start running. What? Just run. Just start running right now.
Our story follows student of alchemy Scarlett Marlowe, played by Perdetta Weeks, who was searching for the legendary Philosopher's Stone. Wait a minute. The stone still exists? I guess Dumbledore lied about having it destroyed. He must really enjoy withholding information from Harry. Anyway, Scarlett's investigation leads her to Paris, where she links up with her ex-boyfriend George, played by Ben Feldman, for help. Together, they discover that the stone lies in the catacombs beneath the city, and Scarlett enlists the aid of a trio of explorers to help her successfully navigate them. Now, since this is a found footage film, it is of course filmed entirely from a first-person perspective. But I think that does work to the movie's advantage. For example, during the first action sequence of the movie, we find Scarlett racing to record a series of texts before they get destroyed, and the small amount of cuts in the scene does add to the tension, as we are able to fully absorb what is going on without the scene seeming like it's slow-paced. However, this can also work against the movie. When Scarlett travels to Paris, she is accompanied by a man named Benji, played by Edwin Hodge. Something about the way Benji's camera just lingers on some of these slow scenes in the movie makes them seem even slower. This is most noticeable during the first act, when Scarlett and George are talking about how to find the stone. After everything is established, our heroes gear up, Benji outfits everyone's headlamps with cameras, and they descend into the catacombs. You would think this is when the movie starts to get good, and you'd be right. Sort of. While the premise is not fully realized, the movie is basically one big claustrophobic nightmare. One of the characters suffers a panic attack early on, and the tightness of the shot and the way the camera is angled made it a very effective scene. Our heroes also lose their source of light at the most inopportune times, leaving them, and the audience, in complete darkness, and the action can also get pretty disorienting and heart-pumping. I also think that the cast does a good job conveying the terror that their characters feel as things continue to get worse for them. However, this movie suffers from a narrative standpoint. Since a lost treasure is involved, naturally, there are going to be booby traps. The traps start off simple enough as man-made riddles, which I liked as they offered legitimate challenge and also showed off Scarlett's smarts. However, there is a supernatural element to the traps, and this is where the movie drops the ball, I think. It tries to establish that there is a pattern of the past coming back to haunt you, but this doesn't amount to much and comes across as a cheap way to introduce psychological drama. Heck, one of the psychological terrorists comes out of nowhere for no other reason than because the plot says so, though I will admit the sequence was cool to look at. Several of the other terrors our heroes face have nothing to do with the past and are seemingly being made up as the movie goes along. Not only that, but the supernatural element of the story takes place before our heroes even get anywhere near the stone. Since these traps go out of their way to try and kill everybody, it makes you wonder if the stone was ever meant to be discovered despite the fact that there are tests on the way to it. It's like, hey, even though you proved your worth, you still have to die for even thinking about trying to find the stone. Imagine for a moment that after Indiana Jones chooses the correct Holy Grail in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the knight does not warn him about the Great Seal, and that should paint a clearer picture as to what I mean. It can get very distracting trying to figure out what the heck is going on, and it just wrecks the tension of the second and the third act. Also, considering how disorienting the action can get, I'm surprised that the characters are not terrified beyond the capacity for rational thoughts and can actually figure out what to do next. Overall, As Above, So Below is a decent movie from a technological standpoint. It takes a while to get started, but the first-person perspective does augment the premise. Scarlett is a likable lead, and the other characters are tolerable, but their traits are poorly set up, and because the movie is only 93 minutes long, that means there isn't enough time to fully flesh them out. Mix that in with a climax that is not only tacked on, but also underwhelming, and I am going to give this movie 5.5 Lost Treasures of Doom out of a possible 10. If you are a fan of horror movies and want to see this in theaters, then just go with somebody that you know will pay for your ticket. Otherwise, just wait for it to come out on HBO. This has been Short and to the Point, and I review movies in 5 minutes or less, or your money back. Now if you'll excuse me, I have had a long night, so I'm going to get ready to go to bed. I will see you all next time. Bye. It's me.